on Tuesday, they made the decision apparently over the weekend in Wilmington, Delaware, to be nimble and creative. Nimble and creative, those are not things not words that readily come to mind for our doddering president. But on Tuesday, what did that mean? It meant that they brought out the raging bull bleeper himself, Robert De Niro. He has nipples, Greg. Could you milk him? He shows up, okay, wearing a mask. Here's Robert De Niro. I don't know who's bred. Honest to God, I don't know who came up with this idea. This is one of the stupidest political ideas I have ever seen in my entire life. Apparently, the idea of the Biden campaign was we have an unpopular 81-year-old incumbent who falls down a lot and babbles nonsensically. What if we get to defend him outside the courtroom where his political opponent is being tried on political grounds? What if we get an 80-year-old, half-senile, doddering old man who recently fathered a small baby? What if we get that guy, and he's an actor to boot, and he's crazy enough that he spent the last several years going on random TV shows shouting F Trump? What if this is a man who with the credibility of the American people behind him, this is a man who has gravitas. Robert De Niro. So here he is wandering around in New York City in the broad daylight, outside, 3 years after the end of COVID, wearing a mask. Slow clap for these geniuses. I mean, this is like some really solid stuff. Apparently, he is now reversing his line from the king of comedy, right? Which was better to be king for a night than a schmuck for a lifetime. Better be schmuck for a night than king for a lifetime is apparently Robert De Niro's new styling here. So he arrives, and then he proceeds to start rambling nonsensically. What were they even thinking? What were they thinking? What was the idea here? I don't, honest to God, I don't get it. This is the stupidest campaign ploy I have ever seen, ever. It was really dumb in 2016 when Hillary Clinton at the convention trotted out a bunch of young actresses to sing Fight Song. And it was really cloying and annoying. But at least you understood that it was an attempt to bring actual celebrities who do a thing celebrities do, like sing. Bringing Robert De Niro, a guy who plays a tough guy in the movies, to show up at the age of 80 and stagger over to microphones to talk about a criminal trial. Like, what was even the logic? This isn't even a bank shot. It's like one of those old Larry Bird, Michael Jordan commercials. This is like off the plane, off the house, off the tiger, off the backboard, swish. Like who thought of this? It's like pinball logic here. If you just bounce the ball enough, then magically this will lead to Donald Trump losing the election. Here's Robert De Niro, an elderly man who spent his entire life reading scripts written by other people, doing a terrible acting job. He needs Take Two and Martin Scorsese directing this thing, because I got to tell you, otherwise, it's just the rest of his IMDb credits over the last 15 years.
I mean, this is really, even these people over here are it's kind of crazy. It's really crazy. And this thing, Donald Trump has created this. He should be telling them not to do this. But he's just... It's no surprise that the murder rate and other violent crimes peaked under Trump and are falling under Biden. And now he's promising to use our own military to attack U.S. citizens. That's the tyrant. That's the tyrant he's telling us he'll be. And believe me, he means it.
Is he talking to me? Is he talking to me? What in the world? We'll get to more on that in just one moment. First, in America, we are incredibly fortunate to have brave men and women who volunteer to serve in our military. They dedicate their lives to protecting our freedom and ensuring our nation's security. These men and women voluntarily lay their lives on the line for us, but when their service ends, transitioning to civilian life can be rough, especially given the current economic climate. That's why Pure Talk proudly supports America's Warrior Partnership. Since 2014, America's Warrior Partnership has worked with tens of thousands of veterans in its quest to stop veteran suicide and help veterans and their families live the purposeful lives they deserve. You can join the fight. New customers who switch to Pure Talk can make a one-time donation matched dollar for dollar by Pure Talk, or round up their initial order at checkout. If you're already a Pure Talk customer, you can also make recurring donations by rounding up your monthly bill. Pure Talk saves the average family over $900 per year. How about we give some of that savings back to our nation's veterans who give their lives to protect us. Go to puretalk.com/Shapiro and make the switch. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and happens to be half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. Visit puretalk.com/Shapiro to upgrade your cell phone service to America's most dependable 5G network. That's puretalk.com/Shapiro. What is he even jabbering about? He's going to use the American military on his domestic opponents? You're literally standing outside a trial where he is being tried for a crime that does not exist by a politically motivated DA, and the president of the United States just deployed you to go speak outside of his trial why he should be thrown in jail. And you're talking about Donald Trump being the tyrant? That's your idea? Totally crazy. Totally crazy stuff here from Robert. Again, the notion that Robert De Niro was going to be the tip of the spear in terms of Joe Biden's campaign? My goodness. In 2012, Mitt Romney brought Clint Eastwood to speak at the Republican National Convention. And it was actually a pretty good idea. It's just that Clint Eastwood refused to read from a script. Right? Clint Eastwood said he wanted to say what he wanted to say, and he did that famous empty chair thing, which everyone was like, what is happening right now? All he really needed was for Clint Eastwood to get up on the stage and do Dirty Harry. And he needed something else that was random. But at least Clint Eastwood at the time had high levels of trust with the American people because he had also just done this famous car commercial in the aftermath of the Great Recession, all this kind of stuff. No one takes Robert De Niro seriously. No one. He is not even considered a sort of iconic figure anymore, considering that the sort of Daniel Day-Lewis artiste from the 1970s and early 80s has now been demoted to the guy who does About My Father, the movie About My Father, which I didn't even know existed until I looked up his IMDb with Sebastian Maniscalco. Like, what? That's the guy they trotted out. It's just insane. And then he proceeds to have a meltdown and engage with the hecklers because he can't stop himself. So he starts turning into Travis Bickle in real time, but really, really old. What? This campaign is, if Donald Trump loses to this campaign, I mean, honest to God, I don't know how it's possible, maybe, but Joe Biden is running, this is a horrible campaign being run by Joe Biden.
These guys are the true heroes. They stood and put their lives on the line for these lowlives, for Trump.
They lied under oath.
They lied under oath.
Right.
Who lied under oath? What are you telling me?
Those two traitors behind you.
Excuse me?
Those two traitors behind you.
They lied under oath?
That's right.
What are you saying?
They're traitors.
They're traitors. I don't know. I don't even know how to deal with you, my friend. I don't even know how to deal with you.
Old man arguing with protesters on behalf of old man who can't even argue with protesters anymore because he's no longer functional. Wow. According to Politico, quote, many close to Biden have expressed private frustration the media is obsessed with Trump, making it difficult at times to garner attention for the incumbent. By the way, you know how delusional and crazy that is? That's so crazy. The biggest problem right now in the country for Joe Biden is that everyone is paying attention to Joe Biden. Joe Biden's in such a siloed echo chamber that he's like, oh my God, why is MSNBC and CNN covering Trump? Why don't they cover me? Why are they covering Trump? They're covering Trump because they're trying to help you win. And they know over at CNN and MSNBC that the more they cover you, the more likely it is you will lose because you suck at being president. Everything you touch turns to absolute crap. But the incompetents at the Biden campaign are like, oh my God, every time I turn on CNN and MSNBC, they're just showing this trial. We can't get attention for our amazing campaign. Let's get Robert De Niro out there at the age of 80 to babble about tyranny. The people familiar with the decision disputed that the stunt was born out of desperation, even as Biden has narrowly but consistently trailed Trump in the polls. Well, I mean, it is. I mean, it reeks of desperation. Obviously. In fact, this was pretty much openly admitted at the event itself. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.